It doesn't even matter if we talk during this part. There's going to be music over it anyway.
That's right, you're going to edit it.
Yeah.
This the whole day editing it.
Oh, easily. This is going to be the intro.
Celebrate, celebration, celebrate, 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 celebration, celebrate. Hey, what's your style? What you drinking? What's your vibe? I've been feeling rather sad in the corner of my glass. Boy, what's your style? What you drinking? What's your vibe? I've been feeling rather sad. Oh yeah. Don't be mean. You're here all alone and you know it. Hang on, cause we're gonna turn it up. Don't you see? I'm here all alone and I like it. Baby, don't please try to fight it. Pour it up with the blue champagne, blue champagne, blue champagne. Let's celebrate with the blue champagne, blue champagne. All my feelings run away in a sip of all the colors. Celebrate with the blue champagne, blue champagne. I'm in Mexico, you see, and no way I'm feeling bueno. Got a hot streak on my ears, sweating worse than a volcano. I'm only starting the week, don't try to take this from me. I'm on a roll, come here and work it with me. Come here and work it with me.
Hello guys, I'm back for another video, and today we're going to be comparing the 2020 Ducati Panigale V2 and the 2020 Yamaha R6. So we'll start by going over some of the technical specs. The MSRP on the R6 is $12,199, and the MSRP for the V2 is starting at $16,495. The R6 does not have a quick shifter. Well, at least this one doesn't, but there is an optional quick shifter up only, and it has a slipper clutch and adjustable levers. The Ducati has a up-down quick shifter. It's called the Evo 2, and it works really well. It has adjustable levers, and it also has a slipper clutch. And one thing to mention is this Ducati does have a wet clutch. As far as the power plants go, the R6 has a 599cc dual overhead cam inline 4, and that has 4 valves per cylinder, and of course the cross plane crank. And the Ducati has a 955cc L-twin Super Quadro, and that has 4 Desmo valves per cylinder. And if you don't know what the Desmo valves are, then I'll be putting out a video on that at a later date. And as far as the power, the R6 revs to 16,000 RPMs, and it makes peak power of 117 wheel horsepower at 14,500 RPMs. And it makes a peak torque of 45.5 foot-pounds at 10,500 RPMs. The Ducati revs to 10,750 RPMs, and it makes peak power at redline, which is 155 horsepower. That's 5 horsepower over the previous 959. And it makes a peak torque of 76.7 foot-pounds at 9,000 RPMs. The R6 uses an aluminum twin spar frame and a magnesium subframe. And the Ducati has an aluminum monocoque, and it actually uses the motor as a stressed member of its frame. And it has a steel trellis subframe on the rear, and it also has an aluminum single-sided swing arm. As far as the suspension goes, the R6 has 43mm KYB inverted forks, and they are adjustable. And in the rear, it has a KYB piggyback rear shock. The Ducati has adjustable 43mm Showa BPF front forks. The Ducati is sporting a Sachs monoshock in the rear. It's fully adjustable and it's connected to the swing arm via this linkage right here. It also has a Sachs steering dampener. And for the tires, the R6 has a 120/70 R17 up front, and the Ducati is sporting the same. And for the rear, the R6 has a 180/55 R17, and the Ducati has a 180/60 R17. The R6 has a little bit higher of a seat height at 33.5 inches, and the Panigale seat height is 33.1 inches. The R6 has a 54.1 inch wheelbase, and the V2 has a 56.5 inch wheelbase. And the V2 has a 4.5 gallon fuel tank. It's actually just under 4.5 gallons. And the R6 has a 4.6 gallon fuel tank. The R6 is 419 pounds wet weight, and the V2 is 441 pounds wet weight. As far as technology goes, the R6 has traction control and 3 throttle settings, and those are A mode, B mode, and STD, which is smooth. And they work pretty well, but they're not major. And it has standard ABS front and rear. And the Ducati has a 6-axis IMU brought over from the V4, and that allows it to have Ducati wheelie control, an Evo 2 quick shifter, 3 power modes, and lean sensitive adjustable ABS. It also has adjustable engine braking. I'll demonstrate. So you can see all the settings on the Ducati. You have the engine setting, which there's low, medium, and high. Ducati traction control, the Ducati quick shifter, up and down, ABS, Ducati wheelie control, and engine brake control. I'd also like to mention that the Ducati has dual 320mm discs in the front with Brembo M4.32 calipers and a 245mm disc in the rear, and the R6 has dual 320mm discs up front and a 220mm disc in the rear. Hey guys, that was a lot of numbers, so what all does it mean? Well, it really comes down to your personal opinion. To really know which bike that you're going to want to buy, I mean, obviously I'd suggest test riding, but reviews like this are helpful too, because you get to hear other people's opinions. And both bikes are phenomenal bikes. They really are, and they're easily worth their MSRP. But in my opinion, if I had to choose between these bikes, I would take the Ducati 10 out of 10 times. I would pick the Ducati no matter what. And there's a couple reasons for that. The first reason is the ergonomics of these bikes. Now, just to start, the R6 has a harder seat. And I mean, that's not really that big of a deal. That could be changed, but there's some bigger things to the ergonomics. The R6 is one of those bikes to me that it really feels like you're sitting on top of it. I mean, it feels like you're on top of the bike. When you could just feel the bike just feels very flat. I mean, the Ducati is it's totally different than a lot of bikes, actually. It feels like you're sitting in the bike rather than on top of it. And I think a large part of that is the fact that Ducati is slightly lower in the front. It really gives you that feeling of being in the bike, like being part of it, you know? And that's something I really enjoy. And as far as the stock seats, that suede material on the Ducati seat, it really grips you and holds you. You don't slide around. Wherever you want to be on that seat, position wise, you're there. You're stuck there until you purposely move. And when I'm cornering also, I like to sit towards the back of the bike. I like to sit with my butt against the rear part of the seat. And I mean, I'm only 5'6", so if you're taller, then the R6 might feel better ergonomics wise, but I have trouble getting back in the seat on the R6 compared to the Ducati. It's very easy for me to find a comfortable spot on the Ducati. Ducati does feel like maybe it's a little bit longer of a reach to the bars. Maybe, but I mean, the Ducati to me is more comfortable than the R6. There might be people that disagree with me, but that's how I feel when I ride them. And the second thing that's really big is the electronics on the Ducati. I mean, they're really worth it. And it's not just that. The Ducati has better suspension. It has better brakes. It has more power. And not only does it have more power, the way it delivers power is very different. Now with the R6, that's a bike that you really need to wind up, okay? And don't get me wrong, that could be very rewarding. If you want a bike that it needs to be wound up in order to really be taken advantage of, then the R6 is it's going to be a very rewarding bike because it needs to be higher in those revs to be making adequate power. But the Ducati with its twin, it has a more linear power band, and it has power everywhere. It does. You could really just pick a gear and go, you know, like you don't find yourself downshifting to make a pass. Like if you need to make a quick pass on the R6 and you're on the freeway, you might need to click down a few gears, but on the Ducati you could really just roll onto it and it just goes. And you get all of that. You get the better tech, the better suspension, the better brakes, you know, and it's only really $4,500 more. I mean, to me, that's very worth it. You got the wheelie control, the traction control, the power modes, which feel a lot greater than the R6 throttle modes. You know, low power mode on the Ducati is actually a pretty significant difference in the high power mode. On the R6, the B mode, it does change the throttle response. The A mode is a lot snappier, but it doesn't really change how the power of the bike feels completely. And both of the bikes are very nimble. They're very, very nimble. I mean, the Ducati for its power is very nimble, especially with the way the suspension's set up and how you're seated. It's really my preference, but they're both nimble. So, and the Ducati to me, it feels slightly more planted at higher speeds. It does. It feels more planted to me, but both bikes really are the kind of bikes that you get on and you see a turn and you pick a line and it just goes. I mean, they just go. They both are great handling bikes. And the irony of the Ducati really is it has all of these electronics in it. It's a lot more technologically advanced than the R6, but it doesn't the R6, it feels like a razor, okay? It feels very sharp. It feels like it's just very purpose built, just built to race on the track, period. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but what I mean by that is the R6, it doesn't have any really vibrations or anything like that, and the throttle is very smooth. That is one thing that I do prefer on the R6. The throttle response is incredible. I mean, it is extremely smooth. And on the Ducati, at the low RPMs, it can be a little choppy, to be honest. It can, especially. There's a little more play than I'd like in the throttle, and I know that's probably fixable, but just right out of the box, how they come, I definitely prefer the throttle on the R6. And but the Ducati, that twin, you know, it puts a lot of vibrations through the bike and through the bars, and it really does feel like it has soul, like how you hear people say a lot about these bikes like Ducatis and maybe Aprilia, that they have character. And I'm going to say it's true. It really is true. And the thing about these bikes is I do all of my riding on the street. I would definitely like to get into the track this summer, and that's most likely something I'll do, but as of now, I have done all of my riding on the street. And you take a bike like the R6 that it really needs to be wound up, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me. And it might not make a lot of sense for you, or maybe it does, but the Ducati, the power band is just, that's the really, really big thing for me. And both are great bikes. I would be super happy to own either of those bikes, and I have fun on both of them. So my personal preference is the Ducati, and yours might be different, and that doesn't make me wrong, and that doesn't make you wrong, but that's just my opinion. What is up, outro gang? I'm glad that you could join me for another video, and like I said in the first video, I'm just improving improving every video. And I got my GoPro now. It's actually a Hero 8 Black, and so far so good. I used it today to record some footage of the bikes, and I'm pretty impressed with it. But there's going to be more coming, more upgrades. You know, I ordered a whole new helmet to set up for moto vlogging, and I'm going to eventually be buying a better laptop to edit with, and I'm improving my own skills as I go also with my editing and my recording and my dialogue and everything. And I appreciate you guys checking my channel out and coming along for the ride of creating a channel from pretty much from nothing. And if you like the video, I'd appreciate if you would subscribe, like the video, and maybe leave a comment. Leave a comment which bike you think you would prefer, or if you have one of these bikes. But thank you guys for tuning in. Bye.